The reason why I chose this topic is because more and more we see kids needing to move, to be able to learn and to retain the information. And these three equipments can be used for any ages, and you can modify them for whether you have a 3-year-old, whether you have a 10-year-old, 12-year-old, you can use them. And these are very portable. You can have them outside your house, you can have it in the living room. At the moment, my living room is like little gym because I have a mini trampoline, I have these things happen, but you can pack them away as well, quite easy. Just really quickly, a little bit about me. Vanessa already shared most of the things. I'm originally from Taiwan, so that's why my name is spelled HS instead of the X, which is a different spelling, as you know. But I had my formal education in New Zealand. But we love living here in Singapore, been here for 8 years, my family and I, and we have a little puppy and 2 wonderful children, and I love children. So that's why I've been in education for quite a while. When I was teaching in the classroom, I was always coming across children who had difficulties regulating. They were fidgety, they were really smart, but just seemed to always get in trouble, no matter what. And I was always really interested in finding ways to really modify things and helping them. And then later on, when I had children of my own, my oldest, who is now 12 years old, she has some additional needs as well. And then that led me really to really dive deep into sensory integration, reflex work, and just trying to find ways to give her what she needs. So my daughter does have special needs. So then I'm personally, but also professionally, very, very much connected with this topic. So you can see this sign here. This is a picture of MNRI. It is something that I am just so passionate about. I'm the coordinator here in Singapore for what we call the MNRI, which is the Masgutova Neurosensorimotor Reflex Integration. It's a really big mouthful, but basically it means sensory integration and it means reflex. That's all it is. I've attended 33 classes and I've done, I think, about 128 supervised clinical hours, including exams in the US. Last year I was meant to go for more, but COVID happened, so I couldn't travel. And I've done about 600 something plus hours of coursework for this, including dyslexia, PTSD, trauma, visual auditory integration, and so on. And then I've done a couple of courses for brain gym as well. So brain gym and MNRI are what we call the subcortical type of programs because it's sensory based and it's movement based and it's dealing with lower centers of the brain, which is what our chat is about tonight. I've also done some training with the Feuerstein Institute called the FEI. Some of you may be aware of it, but it's a cognitive program. So most programs out there these days are cognitive because they target from the cortex level. But for tonight's purpose, we're talking more about sensory integration. Okay, so to talk about that, I need to mention a tiny little bit about the brain, and then we're going to go into the examples for the 3 equipments. Most of the information I'll talk about will be the equipment, but just a little bit about the brain so that you understand why I'm so passionate about this and why you're going to see more and more of this from now on. Okay, so brain and sensory and movement. Our brain, if you look at this picture here, you can see these colored items here. Our development begins down here. Okay, so if you go here, it says the brain develops from the brain stem. Okay, so from here, and then it goes to the midbrain. It goes to the midbrain, then it goes up to the top. So the brain stem is here, the base and spinal cord. Okay, that's for survival. That's where all our function for internal organs, our heart, our liver, our kidneys. That's the biggest thing first to develop. And then it hits the cerebellum, which is movement and balance. Okay, and then the brain develops here. Okay, this area here is why lots of toddlers and preschoolers, they throw tantrums and they have all these emotions and really strong feelings about everything. The next part to develop is the amygdala and the hippocampus, which is where all the emotions and feelings and memories. So for children, the emotion is tied very strongly to the experiences. So if you want them to have future excitement about certain things, we need to make sure the experiences is very positive. If it's negative, we need to try to make it positive. Otherwise, next time we do something they've had failure in, it's going to be really kind of hard to shift. So we have to make things very positive. We have to allow them to have a lot of choice. Okay, so sensory experiences. So this is the reason why we need to have lots of sensory. Our brain receives input from the visual, from the tactile, the auditory, the vestibular, which is what we're talking about tonight, the sense of smell, the taste, interoception, and proprioception. That is so that we can engage with our surroundings. And as we engage with our surroundings, that's how it goes into our memory. Do we have a positive experience with this particular environment, or do we have a negative experience? And that's going to really allow us to think and to engage and to plan, to visualize, to imagine whatever other scenarios. And that's the very top level, the cortex. Schools are all dealing at the cortical level. We really need to go deep, 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 all the way to the midbrain and the brainstem. Okay, and the brain can take up to 25 to 30 years to fully develop. That's why teenagers have so many issues. They know what to do, but they may not necessarily do it because they lack the maturity to really decide for themselves, right? What's the proper thing to do? Okay, so the two different brain hemispheres. On the left, you can see analytical thought, detail-oriented, the very parts, very small type of things. So if a child is reading, just reading the phonics, they're engaged in the left side of the brain. And the left side of the brain, my left right now, is actually controlled by right part of my body. So if I'm listening with my right ear and I'm looking from this side and I'm doing things with my right hand, I'm actually engaged in the left brain. Okay, and left brain is all about convergence, about detail, about parts. A lot of children are very good with the left brain because academics, puzzle, sequencing, logical thinking. The other part, the left side of the brain, gets left out a lot today in today's world because the right side of the brain, which is governed by the left body, if my left ear, my left hand is doing things, it's actually going all the way to my right brain. And the right brain is on comprehension, meaning big picture, far eyesight, imagination, music, rhythm, the arts. Right side of the brain does not get a good workout these days because there's a lack of movement. There's a lot of emphasis on schooling. There's a lot of emphasis on academic. There's not enough space and not enough time for children to move. So tonight, our presentation, I'm going to be giving you ideas of how to really engage the right brain, okay, as well as the left, but mostly on the right. So learning, movement, self-regulation, you've got two pictures there. One says bang for the buck, and the other says neurons that fire together, wire together. Right now, we're not talking about taking care of the feet, and then somebody else takes care of the hands, and somebody else takes care of the smell, whatever. We're talking about integration. We need to hit the sensory integration for the auditory, the integration for the visual, the integration for the movement, the vestibular, and integration for the touch. If you hit these 4 sensory pathways, you're getting big bang for the buck. Okay, so when I work with the children, I try to hit 4 of these at the same time. When you go to the doctor, sometimes these days, you tend to go to different specialists. For sensory integration and reflex integration, we're talking about holistic and we're talking about global. We don't separate things. Okay, so now that I've explained the why, let's talk about how. Let's talk about some examples of you can do. The first one here is the peanut ball and the therapy ball. I'll show you later, but I'm actually sitting on the peanut ball just like the boy is on his tummy. Okay, and I'm actually bouncing. So that's my chair right now. At home, you can let your child actually just sit like this and do schoolwork. The peanut ball is a good chair. So, but you just need to make sure the table is the right level. You might get your child to do work on the coffee table sometimes. It's okay. At different places, it may not look like a desk work setting, but it is okay. As long as they're learning, that is what your focus is, right? So the therapy ball or the peanut ball is really good for vestibular input. It gives you increased arousal if your child's very sluggish and like kind of like slumped over. You let them bounce like this, it's going to wake them up. It's going to trigger all the spinal fluids and all the good activation of the thinking. okay? And it gives you awareness of body in space, okay? So first thing, bouncing for activation. Before you begin any work, let them do some bouncing. It's really good, okay? So bounce on a peanut ball and let them do a few minutes, up and down. Children love that. But you can also remind them that they can do rocking side to side. Rocking side to side actually works the brain laterally. So you're crossing both hemispheres, left and right, and really allows them to work on this head and the eye and the occipital, the balance level. So do side to side as well. And then the other one you can do is back and forth, because our body moves in 3 dimensions, right? There's front, there's back, and there's up and down, okay? We don't want to be stuck in one position the whole time. So when we're learning, this is all good, okay? This will help the thinking stick, okay? Next part, the posture. The back must be in extension. The boy in the red t-shirt, he's sitting on the green ball. That position is not quite extension. That's kind of curved like a C. Extension is, do you guys know how dogs sit at it for attention when you're about to feed them and their tailbone's kind of sticking out? You want the tailbone to stick out, you know, and so the butt to stick out. So I call it happy puppy. So to get that going, because sometimes you tell your children, sit up, sit up, sit up, come on, back straight. Quite often they don't know what you mean. They might kind of try and do it. They might do it for a few seconds, but they come back down again. The best thing to do is give them proprioception. Proprioception is by giving them some touch, okay? And they learn it. So here on my slide, you can see, you can place your hand flat on the lower back, the sacrum, for a few seconds for the proprioception, instead of just using the word. So next time you say to your child, can you sit up? Put your hand on the back at the same time. So I'm just gonna show you where it is, okay? This here, do you see that? My bottom, this is slouch like this, or this here. Okay, so your hand back over here, you see the curve here naturally. Okay, so that is what you can do. And then you can also put your hand here on the chest for the chest to be up. Because quite often their shoulders are really rounded. So you put the hand on the chest, then they'll come and meet you on the chest and this will open up. And it's something that you don't teach them. You can't teach them these things. But by feeling your touch, the body will know what to do. So that's what you need to do, okay? But the hand on the chest is quite gentle. And you can teach your children to do this by themselves. Sometimes I do this myself, like remind myself to sit up straight, okay? And you can do both hands, front and back at the same time simultaneously. Okay, the next one is arm extension and face the same direction for focus. Can you guys all see the bottom of the slide? Okay, so it's kind of like this. Okay, there's a boy with a soccer ball, there's someone doing this, and then there's another one fencing. These are all versions of something called the ATNR, which is the arm extension. So your back needs to be straight, the posture's good, the chin is not down like this, it's actually just level. You turn this direction like this, okay? Maybe get your child to reach for the pencil or something, okay? And then the eyes has to look at that, okay? So just like the picture of the 3 kids down there, you need to be looking at the object, okay? And then when you look at that, hold the position for a few seconds, then come back and relax. You can repeat this again if you like while bouncing the ball, or you can go to the other side, but make sure the head turns and the hands like this, and you make the child reach for maybe dinner, a cup of water or a glass of juice or something like this, right? And then if you want to engage the auditory, the right ear works on the left brain, which means we want digital and like very steady beats. Do you guys know metronome for piano? Okay, or you can clap hands, or you can click fingers, but it's a very steady beat. It's kind of boring, but it's very steady. So that's for the right ear because it hits the left brain, which is digital. So we're doing on the right, that's the sound on the right. Very, very digital. And then when you're on the left, because left ear is for the right brain for rhythm, music. You can do a rhythm. Or you can go. You can do it any way. You can tap on the table. So the sound, you're tapping nearby, doing the sound, while the child's looking this way and the ear is in that way there. Okay, so this is still therapy and peanut bowl. You can see the boy on the blue bowl. He's doing everything fine, but if he was to come to me, he would be looking at the green bowl. His eyes and his face would be, because we're hitting the 4 sensory patterns, okay, sensory pathways. His face would be looking at the bowl, eyes looking at the bowl, ears that way as well, and the whole trunk, okay, it's rotated this way. So you need to be twisting over this way, because our body is 3D, 3-dimensional. This is what works. And again, if you stick to some kind of rhythm, okay, then you're hitting the vision, the auditory, the vestibular, okay, and the proprioception at the same time. And then again, this side, but the beat will be digital beat. And then the variation is, if you're doing spelling, you can do the same thing, but instead of the green ball, you could have the word here. So if I'm doing on the right, I have a flashcard. I have here, my hands reaching out. I'm looking at the word, but I'm saying k, a, t, c, a, t. And coming down here and back this side here to the left, I will change the card because that's a hole. Then we go cat. And then you go back to this one again, and this is a CAT, you go cat, cat. And then turn back this way for the left, cat. So you say parts on the right, but then when you get to the left, you say the whole word. And then if you're doing math, for example, you can go this is the parts, right? Part of the picture. On the right for the left brain, which is partial, okay, sequencing and so on. Then I'm going 2 plus 4 equals. I'm doing it quite slowly to allow the processing. And then on the other side, this is the entire picture, right? The whole picture. I will go 2 plus 4 equals 6. Okay, do you guys get what I'm saying? If you're doing on this side, you want to go for partial parts, you're doing part of the picture, you break things up into little bits like a puzzle. But then when you get to the other side, you want to have the whole thing. Okay? You can change it to anything you want, colors, spelling words, pictures, analogies, anything that you're learning, but you just have to think about the basics of part, or the whole. And then you could also do eye tracking. You can see the picture of the lady using the pencil there on the ball, which is great, but you don't bounce so much because you don't want to get dizzy, right? You can hold the pencil on object, and then you can literally do this. Can I hold my lipstick so you can see it? It's my lipstick. So I'm holding my right arm. I'm going to go to the left, and I'm my eyes tracking. And then I'm going to go to the right. My eyes tracking, and I come back. So then I change over to the other side. Okay, this is my left arm. So I go to the right here to complete. So you can do that. So you can repeat it. You can do up and down. You can do diagonally. Okay, you can do circular. You can do U, upside down U. You can do lots of different things with that. And you can work, so that means you're working on converging your eyes, diverging that way. You can work midline, there's many different options.